We live in a world draped in golden promises, where the air hums with the siren song of more. More possessions, more status, more fleeting satisfactions piled high like offerings at the altar of an insatiable god. Consumerism, the grand architect of modern existence, has woven itself into the very fabric of our days, convincing us that happiness is a product to be purchased, that identity is a brand to be worn, and that meaning can be found in the endless accumulation of things. But beneath this glittering facade lies a deeper truth, a cosmic sleight of hand so pervasive that we no longer recognize the strings pulling at our desires. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the edge of an infinite marketplace, where every shelf stretches into the horizon, each item whispering of the life you could have if only you reached for your wallet. The deception is not in the objects themselves, but in the belief that they fill a void they were never meant to fill. Like celestial bodies caught in the gravity of a black hole, we orbit the illusion of fulfillment, mistaking the pull of advertising for the calling of our own souls. This is the great deception of modern society, a myth so potent it reshapes reality, turning seekers into shoppers and wisdom into warranties. We are taught to measure our worth in receipts, to mistake novelty for progress, and to confuse consumption with living. Yet, if we pause, if we dare to step outside the neon-lit trance, we might glimpse the truth, that we are not hungry for more things, but for more meaning. That the emptiness we try to fill with possessions is not a lack of material, but a longing for connection, for purpose, for something beyond the transactional rhythms of buy and discard. The journey ahead is not one of condemnation, but of awakening. To see through the illusion is not to reject the world, but to reclaim it. To recognize that the true currency of life is not in what we own, but in how we live, how we love, and how deeply we allow ourselves to be present in a world that constantly urges us to reach for the next distraction. At the heart of the great deception lies a paradox. The more we consume, the emptier we feel. Consumerism operates like a master illusionist, diverting our attention from the fundamental truth that fulfillment cannot be manufactured, packaged, or sold. It thrives on engineered dissatisfaction, convincing us that the next purchase will be the one that finally completes us. But this is a mirage, a shadow play on the walls of our collective consciousness. The core themes of this grand illusion are woven into the very structure of modern life, shaping our perceptions in ways both subtle and profound. One of the most potent myths is the conflation of having with being. We are told that our identity is a curated collection. Our clothes, our gadgets, our cars, each item a pixel in the digital portrait of who we are. Yet, this external scaffolding is fragile, requiring constant reinforcement through new acquisitions. The moment we stop consuming, the illusion threatens to crumble, leaving us scrambling for the next upgrade, the next trend, the next fleeting affirmation that we are enough. This is the hamster wheel of desire, spinning faster with each passing season, yet never actually moving forward. Another pillar of the deception is the commodification of time. In a society that prizes productivity and perpetual business, leisure itself has been repackaged as something to be bought: luxury vacations, premium subscriptions, exclusive experiences. Even our moments of rest are monetized, turning what should be sacred pauses into another form of consumption. We no longer simply exist. We consume existence, trading the slow, organic unfolding of life for the rapid-fire dopamine hits of instant gratification. Perhaps the most insidious theme is the illusion of choice. Supermarkets with endless aisles, streaming platforms with infinite content, fashion cycles that churn like tempests, all give the impression of boundless freedom. Yet, this abundance is a gilded cage. True choice would include the option to step outside the system altogether, to reject the premise that happiness must be purchased. But that alternative is rarely presented, drowned out by the deafening chorus of advertisements, social pressures, and the quiet, unspoken fear of being left behind. Underneath it all hums the engine of planned obsolescence, not just of products, but of joy itself. The thrill of a new possession fades like a dying star, leaving us reaching for the next one, caught in an endless cycle of chasing what was never meant to last. The great deception is not merely that we are sold things, but that we are sold the idea that things can ever fill the infinite space within us. There is an ancient tale of a king who, upon conquering the known world, sat upon his golden throne and wept. For there were no more lands to possess, no more treasures to hoard, and yet the hunger in his heart remained. This is the parable of consumerism, dressed in modern garb but unchanged in its essence. We are all that king in some way, mistaking the map for the territory, the container for the thing contained. The stories we tell ourselves about wealth, status, and ownership are not new. They are age-old myths repackaged in plastic and pixels, whispering to us in the language of Black Friday sales and limited edition drops. Consider the allegory of the golden goose, a creature that laid eggs of pure wealth until its owner, driven by greed, slaughtered it to seize all the gold at once, only to find nothing but ordinary flesh inside. So too does consumerism promise us that if we just acquire enough, we will unlock some hidden trove of happiness. Yet when we dissect our desires, we often find them hollow. The magic gone the moment ownership is claimed. The goose is dead, and we are left staring at the emptiness of our own insatiability. Then there is the myth of Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill only for it to tumble down each time he neared the summit. His punishment was not the labor itself, but the illusion of progress. Modern life mirrors this torment. We chase promotions to buy larger homes, then need higher salaries to maintain them, trapped in a loop where the reward for climbing is simply more climbing. The boulder is branded, the hill advertised as paradise, but the futility remains. We have been convinced that the summit exists, yet the horizon recedes with every step. And what of the lotus eaters from Odysseus' voyage, who languished in blissful apathy, consuming flowers that made them forget their purpose? Today's lotus is the endless scroll, the algorithmically tailored distraction, the curated feed that lulls us into passive consumption. We nibble at entertainment, binge on content, and wonder why we feel so full yet so malnourished. The deception is not in the pleasure, but in the substitution. The way these modern lotuses replace active creation with passive ingestion, leaving us drowsy in a world that demands our wakefulness. These are not just stories. They are reflections of the collective hypnosis we endure. The symbols change, kings become influencers, golden geese become viral trends, but the underlying patterns persist. To see them is to begin the work of disenchantment, to recognize that we are not just consumers, but participants in a narrative far older than shopping carts and credit scores. The question is whether we will continue to play our assigned roles or rewrite the script entirely. The realization that we've been ensnared in consumerism's grand illusion is not an endpoint, but a threshold, a doorway into a more intentional way of being. Yet awareness alone is not enough. It must be coupled with action, with small, deliberate rebellions against the currents of compulsive consumption. The first step is not asceticism, but discernment, a recalibration of our relationship with the material world. This begins with the simple but radical act of questioning every need we've been conditioned to feel. That impulse to upgrade, to accumulate, to keep pace with the invisible standards set by advertising and social media. What if, instead of obeying, we paused? What if we asked, not can I afford this, but will this deepen my life? One practical rebellion is the cultivation of enoughness. In a world that profits from our feeling of lack, declaring I have enough becomes a quiet revolution. It might manifest in repairing instead of replacing, in borrowing instead of buying, or in the deliberate choice to engage with fewer, but more meaningful, possessions. The Japanese concept of motenai, a lament over waste, or the Scandinavian ethos of lagom, meaning just the right amount, offer cultural counterpoints to the frenzy of excess. These are not rules, but compass points, guiding us toward a life where objects serve us rather than enslave us. Another tangible shift lies in reclaiming time as the ultimate non-renewable resource. Every dollar spent is a piece of life energy exchanged for an item. Hours of labor, creativity, or patience converted into stuff. When we view consumption through this lens, our spending habits often clarify. That which truly aligns with our values rises to the surface. The rest reveals itself as clutter, both physical and psychic. This is the economics of the soul, where the real cost is measured not in currency, but in the irreplaceable moments of our finite lives. The societal implications ripple outward. Imagine communities where shared resources, tool libraries, clothing swaps, cooperative gardens, reduce both waste and isolation. Envision economies that prioritize durability over disposability, where products are designed to last and companies profit from stewardship rather than planned obsolescence. These are not utopian fantasies. They are emerging realities wherever people awaken to the truth that endless growth on a finite planet is not just unsustainable, but a form of collective self-harm. Yet the most profound transformation is internal. When we cease to seek ourselves in what we buy, we create space to discover who we actually are. The stillness we've been avoiding through shopping and scrolling becomes fertile ground for creativity, for connection, for the quiet joy of existence unmediated by possessions. This is the great homecoming, the return from exile in the land of more to the sacred ordinary of enough. The call, then, is not to renounce the material world, but to engage with it consciously, to touch things with reverence, to consume with clarity, and to recognize that every purchase is a vote for the kind of world we wish to inhabit. The deception loses its power the moment we see through it. And in that seeing, we reclaim something ancient and essential: our ability to define what makes life rich on our own terms. This concludes our exploration. May your next choices be guided not by habit or hype, but by the deep, quiet knowing of what truly nourishes. The path forward is not one of deprivation, but of liberation, from the tyranny of the unnecessary to the freedom of the essential. Where will you begin?